women in history never heard of and wouldn't be surprised if you haven't either. Today, let's talk about Susan Travers. Susan Travers was born in 1909 and passed in 2003. She was a born socialite, but that wasn't good enough for her. Susan's dad was an admiral in the British Royal Navy. He married Susan's mom for the inheritance. Susan said it was not a good place to live, and the farther away she got, the happier she was. A finishing school in Florence took her pretty far away. She said that began a decade lived as wicked, 'cause she was getting her get, if you catch my meaning. Yeah, so for 10 years she fucked around like a dude. Sources said she even fucked a white Russian prince for a bit. As an aside, I've always thought a white Russian was a disgusting adult beverage. Turns out, white Russians opposed red Russians. The red Russians supported a penis potato. Come on, you get it. No? Okay, let me help you. What's a derogatory term for a peener? How about another word for potato? Did you figure it out? No? He was a dictator. Look, I'm not always going to be that witty. Anyway, Susan lived like a good little rich girl. Even went semi-pro in tennis. But it read to me like she was bored out of her mind. She got gossip. Dudes got war. Well, in 1939, she signed up to work as a nurse with the Red Cross. In case you hate memorizing dates as much as I do, that was the same year mustache dipshit brought war to the world. So nursing was problematic for her. She didn't deal well with blood and other explosive bodily fluids. I'm talking about vomit. What did you think I was saying? Anyway, she eventually joined the French Expeditionary Force as an ambulance driver and was sent to Finland. Unfortunately, the bad guys won that one. Later, she joined General Charles de Gaulle's Free French Forces. Ain't gonna lie, I struggled to get that out of my face. And she volunteered as a chauffeur for military officers. As such, in 1941, she was assigned to drive a colonel with the last name of Koenig. He became the love of her life. He forgot he was already married, but he was happy to forget for a peace. Sorry. By May of 1942, they were stationed at a fort in Libya. Koenig had a force of about 3,700 troops. About 1,000 of those were French Foreign Legion. Well, and they were in the way. But how? An infamous Nazi called Erwin Rommel, look him up, I'm not getting into it, needed to get to an Allied-held city through the fort. Well, he said, nah, no big deal, give me 15 minutes. Panzers? Those are German tanks. Well, he was right, the fort did fall, but it took more like 15 days. Koenig's forces were out of supplies, including ammo and water. It was the desert. Temps were hovering around 120 degrees. So he told Susan to get the car. She was leading a caravan to safety. Now, they'd have to get past a literal minefield, get past 3 concentric rings of well-armed enemy forces. Don't forget the Panzers. Well, game on. Susan had a reputation to uphold. The men affectionately called her La Miss, 'cause she could avoid mines and artillery fire like rich folks avoid taxes. Anyway, around midnight, the evacuation began. They were doing great until a rogue mine exploded and drew tracer fire, followed by heavy artillery. You get the picture. Koenig told her, if we go, the rest will follow. So she floored it. She later said she never had time to be fearful. It was actually kind of exhilarating. Not my brand of fun, but cool. She drove right into the tracer fire, opening a path for those behind her. It's also possible that she literally ran into some parked panzers. Regardless, about 2,500 of the original 3,700 troops followed her to safety. And she found at least 11 bullet holes and heavy shrapnel damage to her car. She also somehow got over her aversion to explosive bodily fluids. Well, Koenig was a hero now. Got him a promotion. So he left Susan without a backward glance for the more respectable fucking of his wife. Regardless of all that, Susan didn't want anything to do with her previous life. So she headed to the French Foreign Legion. If you don't know what that is, it's one of the world's elite military forces. And it's open to people around the world since 1831. She got in because she didn't say she was a woman on the application. One of her duties? Driving a tractor with anti-tank guns. She'd bring it, unhook it, set it up, and then go back for another one. That meant she got shot at a lot. Like, a lot. She also served in Vietnam, and was made what is equivalent to Chief Warrant Officer, the only woman who could command a Legion platoon. Among other medals and honors, in 1956, Susan received the French Military Medal for her bravery in Africa. At the ceremony, the Minister of Defense came to pin it on her lapel. She stood at attention, feeling her heart wrench. It was Koenig. The only thing he said, "I hope this will remind you of many things." Well done, La Miss. Yeah, fuck that guy. She never saw him again. Susan retired in 1958 after 15 years with the Legion. Along the way, she got married and had kids. Koenig passed in 1970, and Susan waited a few more decades for her husband to pass too. Then she wrote her autobiography, Tomorrow to Be Brave. She said it was so her children could know how wicked she'd been. Susan is the only woman who's ever served in the French Foreign Legion. According to a January 2023 article in Spec Ops magazine, women still aren't permitted. I won't go into the misogynistic reasons I read for that. And I don't know if that should change. But I have an opinion. If someone wants to fight, make them prove it. Then let them. Duh.